What's poppin', everyone? Low Hill Plays here. Today we are gonna go over all the new Pokemon that are in the DLC. Not like old Pokemon that have just returned, but actually new Pokemon. I'm going to discuss all of their new abilities as well as their new moves, their move stats, a couple of interesting sets that they have. Of course, there will be spoilers for the main game, so if you don't want to see any spoilers if you're going to actually play the DLC, I highly recommend that you skip this. But for myself, I am not going to play the DLC, so I am very interested in the mods and what they can do, as well as this first part. I'll probably make this into a couple videos, but this first part will be all the new Pokemon that are added into the game. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I am going to talk about this in terms of competitive Pokemon. I'm not really a VGC player, so I am going to be talking about this at least in the competitive sense of like singles as well as draft potential. Because of course we have the PBO, which I am a co-owner of, which is Pokemon Battle Organization Draft Style League. Feel free to check out my other YouTube videos on that as well. We're about to go in the playoffs, so it's pretty cool. And then as soon as this, we're probably going to start in October. We're going to be doing a new draft with all of these new Pokemon. So let's go ahead and get right into it without talking too much. So Orgerpon. First off, gotta go with these heavy hitters. Okidogi is considered legendary. This is probably the most interesting one so far, for sure, because this Pokemon has it's pretty interesting. So it's a pure grass with the teal. With this mask, it's pure grass, as well as the thing with Ogerpon is it can only Terra into its type that it's changed. So with this grass one, it can only Terra into grass. It has an ability of Defiant, which is not bad for it being a physical attacker. It has really good high attack stat 120 and a speed stat of 110. Decent bulk, 84 defense, 96 special defense, and then like 80 HP. But yeah, it's got a signature move of Ivy Cudgel. This changes depending on the mask that it's wears. So it also has a Wellspring form, a Hearth Flame form, and then a Cornerstone form, in which you know, Orgerpon changes its type, as well as the typing of Ivy Cudgel changes. So this one, if it's the water mask, is now water type. This one is fire type because it has the fire mask on, and then this one is rock type because it has the rock type one. So going over the grass one, it's also interesting because when they Terra, they actually have new abilities too. So I believe, I probably should look this up before I actually do anything. So terrestrialized abilities, with the Teal Mask one, you immediately get a 1.5 speed boost, so you get a +1 speed, which is pretty important because this mon can be pretty fast. And also what's interesting about, I mean, I believe with this first Orgerpon, I do believe that you can run a different item. I'm not 100% certain of that, but I believe it's already in its masked form. So after doing some slight research, I still don't know if the Teal Mask is a mandatory item for Orgerpon, but basically if it can't run an item and it keeps the mask, you can still, I mean, the downfall of this Pokemon is that you can basically only Terra type into grass, as well as the other ones can only Terra into water. This one can only Terra into fire, and this one can only Terra into rock. It's definitely a downfall of Orgerpon, but if this specifically one can still hold an item, this one for sure is going to most likely be the best out of all of it. You know, it's not guaranteed, but you know, having the ability of an item versus, you know, having a stronger Terra move is typically better for most Pokemon. You want to run like different items, whether you're running heavy duty boots, scarf, band. You just basically have more options, Life Orb as well, compared to these other ones that have to wear the mask to get this different form. But yeah, the grass one, definitely getting that speed boost is very nice because it's at 110 speed. Definitely at 1.5 makes this thing a lot more deadly. Looking at some of its movesets, it also gets access to, so all four of these will get all the same moves. So when I discuss these Pokemon having these moves, that means that all of them will have these moves. So knockoff Play Rough Swords Dance for this Orgerpon Wellspring one. I also looked at Encore Leech Seed and Spikes. For the Wellspring one, I do believe that it gets a plus special defense boost, so it's not bad. It looks like this one is probably more like defensive in nature. But still, like, it has 120 attack, 110 speed. It's really not that bad. You can still probably use it very offensively. But these are some cool things that it gets access to Encore, Leech Seed, and Spikes, I thought were kind of cool, especially for being a spike setter. For the grass one is pretty important because you also get the plus 1 speed boost if you really want to, although it's definitely a major waste of a Terra option. But you definitely could run Spikes on this bomb because it is really fast, and have it as a lead and just have it be a spike stacking lead. For the fire one, again, its abilities, gets an attack boost for the fire one, which is pretty interesting because its attack is already pretty high. Again, this Ivy Cudgel will turn into a fire type. Other moves that it does have, oh, I forgot to discuss, the Wellspring one will have Water Absorb before it Terras and becomes that Terra Water one, whereas this fire one will have Mold Breaker. Other moves for all of these forms will be Spiky Shield, Stomping Tantrum, and Superpower. And then finally, the rock one actually has Sturdy as an ability, which is not bad because it's basically a free focus sash, but of course you have to have can't have rocks up, especially since you can't run heavy duty boots. But yeah, Ivy Cudgel will be a rock type move, which is pretty good because there's 100 base power, physical rock type move with 100 accuracy. Pretty sure that's pretty rare because a lot of rock type moves are not that accurate. But Synthesis, Taunt, and U-Turn are also some really good options for all these Pokemon. Definitely in terms of OU, like OU usage, I definitely think Orgerpon will be around for a little bit until people start to realize that potentially not having the mass up are that great. This one offensively I think is going to be really strong, especially because you can Terra Fire and then get the +1 boost. Is pretty powerful. So between all these, I definitely think which ones will be the best. I think the Wellspring one might be the worst, followed up by the grass one maybe, and then between the rock and the fire one. Because in terms of like grass, rock is not great, but it is pretty fast, and it's rock is pretty good offensively, so I'm not too certain. And in terms of draft, you could have all 4 of these be separate types. The only downfall is with draft, you know that they're stuck in this item already. They would just have to be running different EVs and movesets. But they still have a use because they're pretty offensively strong. So yeah, these definitely could be pretty powerful in draft as well. As well as they have a large move pool too. So it would be interesting to see how these perform in draft as well. So let's move on to Okidogi. I forget what all these like new legendary things are called. There's like, you know, a trio of them. This one is Okidogi. Okidogi. Whatever. Toxic Chain is its new hidden, or not even hidden ability, new ability that all 3 of them had. This Pokemon's moves have a 30% chance to badly poison, which is definitely an increase from, you know, Poison Touch, which is just 30% chance to poison. But this is actually a lot better than that. So as it appears here, this Pokemon's moves, meaning that the moves don't have to be physical, I believe. So with Toxic Chain, this Pokemon moves, the other two legendaries that are also poison type, having access to this ability basically just straight up puts like a 30% chance to poison on all the special type moves as well. So this move is pretty useful. Its hidden ability is Guard Dog, which is immune to Intimidate, and whenever you get intimidated, you get +1 stats and cannot be forced out by like Roar. I think Whirlwind's the other one that are the main ones that force you out. This thing has pretty good stats, to be honest. Good bulk, 88 HP, 115 defense, really high attack stat, 128. Decent special defense of 86 and decent speed of 80. It's not anything crazy, but it's definitely pretty useful. The typing is not bad. It's same typing as Sneasler, but this thing does get more coverage, I think. It gets the elemental pudges, but we'll go through that right now. So just a couple of the moves I was looking at. Does get bulk up, close combat, gunk shot, and knockoff. Obviously really good stabs as well as coverage with knockoff now. It also gets poison jab, so if you want to run the 30% chance to badly poison and then a 30% chance to regular poison to guarantee poisons, it's also pretty strong for that. Looking at some other moves, Crunch, Drain Punch, Iron Head, and Psychic Fangs are really good coverage. Toxic, Taunt, Body Press, and Roar are also some good utility options because you could run this thing actually defensively. It's probably not great defensively in OU because having a weakness to Earthquake is not great for higher tiers, but it definitely can be useful as a wall in terms of draft. So Toxic, Taunt, Body Press, and Roar I thought were some really good utility options for Okidogi, and I think it's honestly, I can't really tell which is the best out of all three of these legendaries so far. I think Fenzandipiti is like the worst for sure, but between Okidogi and Munkidori I'm not too sure. But we can move on to the next one. So let's look at Munkidori. So Munkidori is the other one of these three legendaries. It is Poison Psychic, has really high special attack of 130 and decent speed of 106. Decent special defense and decent HP, so it could probably live a special hit. But the typing Poison Psychic is actually very good offensively. Really powerful, same as Galarian Slowking. And especially with this stats, it's definitely going to be a hard hitter. Has the still Toxic Chain ability, again, like I said before. Any of its special attacking moves will also still have a chance to poison, so it's pretty powerful. Hidden ability is Frisk. Definitely not used in singles, but might be good for a draft format. And looking at some of its really good moves, it has U-Turn for Switch Initiative. Nasty Plot is obviously really powerful because this thing already has super high special attack stat. Psychic and Sludge Wave are its main strongest ways of dealing stab. But looking at some other moves, we have Calm Mind, Focus Blast, Grass Knot, and Shadow Ball. These three moves are obviously for coverage. By the way, when I'm showing off these moves and stuff, that's not meaning that like this is the set you should run. It's just options that you can run. Calm Mind might not be bad in case you want to run the Spadef boost and maybe run it like especially defensively. Typing is not great defensively, but it's not terrible. I think it's what it probably has like. Does it even have some resist? I'm trying to think of some right now. I know Poison has some okay resist, but it might be honestly weak to a lot of things. But I mean, Galarian Slowking gets used all the time. And it's pretty bulky, and you know, I think it's not bad. But anyway, yeah, some coverage moves: Focus Blast, Grass Knot, and Shadow Ball. Next up is some more options. Parting Shot, obviously, instead of U-Turn, like you don't want the Rocky Helmet chip. Parting Shot is another Switch Initiative move. Taunt, obviously really good, and Trick. Can be really annoying for walls to switch in on this. You can just trick your Choice Specs away or Choice Scarf and basically cripple those things, and then as another way of hitting those specially defensive mons, you can just run Psyshock. But yeah, this one's definitely looking like a threat so far. In terms of like OU, if it's gonna stay in OU or not, I think the Okidogi one, the one before this, I definitely think will stick around. I don't know if it'll stick around in OU, but it'll definitely stick around in UU. This one, not sure if it'll also stick around in OU, but it's definitely UU and above. But here we have the last one, which is the most unfortunate because I think everyone was really expecting this one to be good. Poison Fairy is really good typing. But as you can see, Fenzandipiti, from its stats, 88 HP, 91 attack, 82 defense, 70, and then they put all the stats in special defense. So it's 125 special defense, and then 99 speed is still pretty good. But ultimately, it's looking like this thing is definitely meant to be bulky. Toxic Chain is one of its abilities, and then the other one is Technician. Technician is not bad for this thing, but we'll look at some movesets as we go through the moves. I was looking at this one of just U-Turn, Toxic, Roost, and Moonblast. But then again, you probably don't want to run Toxic Chain, but then again, you can also spam Moonblast and still have a chance to poison. But yeah, this is obviously like especially defensive type variant, but looking at some other moves, it doesn't get dual wing beat, which would work well with Technician, obviously boosting that to 60 base power each. So it's 120, but it's also not stab. Other options it does have Swords Dance, but again, 91 attack is not that great. You could potentially continuously set it up, but still it's not that powerful. But in case you did want to run Swords Dance, Play Rough and Poison Jab are some options in terms of stabs that you can run. Looking at some other things, you definitely could run like a Calm Mindset, maybe just put max HP, max defense, Calm Mind, and then here are some coverage options: Dark Pulse, Heat Wave. There are some other moves like Hurricane, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball as good coverage. Then you also have Nasty Plot sets. Its special attack is not great at all, which makes me think that Nasty Plot is not going to be a great move set for it. So I don't think most of the time you're running Nasty Plot, but at least in terms of draft, you have some variability here. Next, we have Taunt, obviously really good as a lead because it's pretty fast too, so you can taunt like other walls. And as I said before, Hurricane, Sludge Bomb, and Shadow Ball just as coverage. is pretty powerful. I think this one is definitely the worst out of the three, unfortunately. I'm definitely thinking this one is probably in the RU tier, just because the typing is so good. It might go to UU, because it probably has a lot of defensive capabilities, but I mean, I could even see it being extremely niche OU just because it walls the stabs of Iron Valiant, which is definitely a problem right now in OU. It's a very strong Pokemon, but I don't think it will stay in OU for very long because the Mon is not great. The Mon is not great for sure. So yeah, definitely a little bit disappointing with this one. I definitely think in draft it's still not bad, but it's not crazy strong. But I do think the potential of just Roost, U-Turn, Moonblast, just always potential to get off a toxic chain to badly poison can be really powerful on a Mon that is, you know, bulky, because you can Roost stall stuff, you can protect stall stuff if you want to go for the toxic route as well. So alright, next up, this Pokemon is really cool. Ursaluna Bloodmoon, and unfortunately they don't have a photo of it, so I am going to show. Yeah, this guy, he looks absolutely insane. Such a cool design, by the way. So Ursaluna Bloodmoon is ground normal, same as normal Ursaluna, but instead of Ursaluna being a physical attacker, this variant is actually a special attacker. So it's got a pretty unique ability in Mind's Eye. So it's basically Scrappy plus Keen Eye, so fighting and normal moves hit Ghost, and then accuracy can't be lowered, and then it also ignores evasiveness. It's got really high special attack, 135, really good defense at 120, and a really good HP stat too. It's slightly faster than Ursaluna by 2 points. Its special defense isn't that great, but you know, this stab combination is pretty powerful. Ground normal is very good offensively, especially since you can't, you can still hit ghost types, as well as you can hit ghost types with normal and fighting type moves. But yeah, the special attack is really powerful. It also has a signature move very similar to Gigaton Hammer, and that it cannot be used twice in a row, but 140 base power normal type move, it's like actually insane. I assume that's like almost the same thing as just having a boom burst, right? I forget. Okay, well, it's not gonna let me look at it, but I think it's like definitely better than a boom burst, which is pretty powerful, but obviously can't use it twice. But in terms of other coverage, you can just at least run Hyper Voice if you don't want to run Blood Moon, and then obviously Earth Power is a special move, and then Moonblast as coverage is pretty good as well. And then also, looking at some other sets, it does have low special defense, but potentially you could go for like some Calm Mind shenanigans, as well as you do have Moonlight as a way of healing up too. Focus Blast as another good coverage option, and then Taunt is also pretty good on this Mon as well. But yeah, this Mon actually looks pretty decent. I mean, Ursaluna was OU for a while, and I think it's dropped. I'm not too keen on keeping up with tiering. At least Pokemon Showdown, I don't play too much. But I think this one is probably gonna end up being in UU. It's just really slow. It probably can belong in some Trick Room teams in OU, but I know with Magirnagon, it's probably Trick Room strategies aren't that powerful. But Ursaluna with Terra Normal, whew, this thing is gonna be a beast. I don't know if it'll stay around in OU, but definitely UU. So UU and above, I believe, for this one, and especially for draft, this thing is really cool to run. Really just good to have as like a defensive wall, and then you just nuke stuff back with special attacking sets is really cool. So next up we have Sinistra. I'm not going to go over the baby form because it's just a weaker form of it. But yeah, Sinistra has Hospitality as a new ability on switch in. This Pokemon restores 1/4 of allies' max HP rounded down. This is specifically only for VGC, so I'm not going to really cover it. And then its hidden ability, the way better one, is Heat Proof, so it's actually taking neutral damage from fire type moves. Looking at its stats, 71 HP, bad attack. Obviously, it's the special attacker of 121 special attack. Really good defense of 106, decent special defense of 80, and then speed of 70. So I know a lot of people were thinking that this thing gets Shell Smash, but unfortunately it does not. It can still be quite annoying. It has a signature move of Matcha Gotcha. It's a slightly stronger Giga Drain by 5 base power. Worse accuracy though of 90%, but you also get a 20% burn on top of it. So it's really not that bad of a signature move. I just wish that it was a little bit more accurate. I feel like they could have just thrown in 95% here and definitely made this a lot better than Giga Drain. Like, it's a signature move. Come on now. Like, you're gonna give freaking Ursaluna Blood Moon and it cannot be used twice. Like that that like downfall of it is way worse, way better than like Machagacha having 90% accuracy. Really annoying that it has that. Most people might just run Giga Drain simply because it is always 100% accurate and they don't like to miss, particularly me. But Sinistra does not get Shell Smash, but it does get Nasty Plot, so it's a little bit decent, especially since you run like Nasty Plot into Machagacha or Giga Drain. You can Giga Drain back up your health. Also gets access to Shadow Ball. Some other things that I might run, Trick Room could be pretty good because it's somewhat slow, but it does outspeed Wall, so you could set up on some bulkier Pokemon and still do some damage. Other things that it has, Strength Sap, Scald actually, which is fairly powerful, and then Leaf Storm as a really strong grass type move, and then more of that is Hex, Calm Mind. Memento I thought would be a really cool option. Again, I'm going over these options in terms of draft. Most likely for Pokemon Showdown, you're not going to see like all these moves, but in terms of draft, these moves would be really cool to see. Calm Mind options, Memento as a way of just like maybe do damage to something and then you Memento just to weaken something to set up later. And then Iron Defense also. It's unfortunate this thing doesn't get Body Press, but you know, Iron Defense plus Giga Drain, if you destroy all of your Pokemon special attackers and they're only left with defensive mons, then obviously Iron Defense Sinistra could put in some work. But man, Grass Ghost is not great typing. The mon is slow and does not have Shell Smash. Most likely, I think this thing would probably end up in NU. That's my prediction. It will obviously take a while for the meta to settle down, but I'm thinking like NU, RU. People might just use it a lot because it's a new mon, but I think eventually it will drop down to probably NU. I don't see it being much better than that, especially since it doesn't have Shell Smash. It's definitely an NU actually. Yeah. So moving on to the next mon, we got Diplin. So another kind of like spoiler. I've heard that this thing actually is allowed to run Eviolite. Meaning it's supposed to have a third evolution actually in DLC 2, because in game I've heard that Diplin with Eviolite actually works. So looking at the stats, 80 HP, 80 attack, 110 defense, 95 special defense, 80 speed def. It's decent bulk, and then obviously it's very slow. But I think with Eviolite this thing becomes a lot more powerful. I would have to double check this, but I'm almost certain Eviolite works with Diplin. Feel free to correct me in the comment section below. But yeah, in terms of hidden abilities, super sweet syrup on switch in. This Pokemon lowers the evasion of opponents by 1 stage. Really not a great ability, only for VGC stuff. Its other abilities, Gluttony and Sticky Hold, are really nothing that important, but Gluttony is probably the best one, at least in terms of draft. But super sweet syrup might be good for VGC in terms of there are some moves that have low accuracy that people run, like Springtide Storm on Tornadus and all sorts of stuff like that. So this might be useful in VGC, but again, I'm not a VGC player. So looking at the moves, Draco Meteor, Giga Drain, Leaf Storm, and Syrup Bomb. Syrup Bomb is its signature move. 60 base power, 85 accuracy, and then target speed is lowered 1 stage for each turn. Again, this move is not good. Only might be good for VGC, but you're never using this over Giga Drain in terms of singles. So yeah, it's very disappointing in that fact, but potentially in VGC it could see some usage. Other moves that I could see it running, Dragon Tail, Gyro Ball, Sucker Punch, and Recover are pretty nice from this mon. Again, it's very much like Appleton in the way that, like, you know, it just wants to deal damage. I think the worst thing about this one though is that it does not get Leech Seed, which is really bad. Because this mon would really love to have Leech Seed. It's so crazy that, like, I'm pretty sure the other two get Leech Seed, but this one doesn't. Which is quite frustrating. But yeah, this one, I'm not looking too hot. I'm honestly thinking, so it's worse than Appleton, right? I mean, it does have good defense. I think the defense and special defense are swapped, and that's like the main difference between Appleton. But it can run Eviolite, which makes it slightly better than Appleton, but also it doesn't have Leech Seed. So I would think in terms of tiering wherever Appleton is at now. So Appleton is NU, so maybe just barely this thing reaches RU with Eviolite. But most likely gonna be an NU mon. And I do believe that is all the new Pokemon coming to DLC 1. Well, it's already out now, but all the new Pokemon that are in DLC 1. I am going to go over all the new Pokemon that came back from old regions, as well as going over some of their movesets and such. So feel free to stay tuned to the channel, because I'll probably turn that into a 1, 2, or 3-part series talking about all those Pokemon and some of their good movesets that they can potentially run, and if anything changed from last season to this season. But yeah, without further ado, make sure that you stay tuned to the channel, make sure that you subscribe, like, and comment for more. Because yeah, I think we're gonna go over more Pokemon, and then we're also probably gonna have some Showdown lives, maybe, if I have time. More than likely I will, just because I'm not gonna be actually playing the end game part of stuff, so I'll probably be messing around with some really cool sets. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel for that, and without further ado, I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Peace.